Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're really diving into something fascinating. We're looking at the Shri Yantra, but through the specific lens of sidereal astrology.
Mm-hmm.
And our guide for this is a booklet by Shri Lokanath.
Right.
So your mission, as you listen, is basically to get the key connections between these, well, pretty ancient systems.
Yeah, and how they might offer some insights for, your own personal growth.
Exactly. And we'll try to do that without getting too bogged down in, like, every single detail. It can seem complex.
It definitely can. But the title itself, the Shri Yantra and sidereal astrology, it just grabs you, doesn't it? That blend of geometry and the cosmos.
Totally. It hints at this really powerful synthesis.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we're excited to unpack it with you.
Absolutely. And what strikes you right away is this ambition, really, to connect our inner human stuff with the vastness of the cosmos.
Yeah.
And the booklet starts with a really a compelling way to visualize this.
Okay, let's get into that visualization then, the tree analogy.
That's the one.
So, Shri Lokanath draws this direct parallel, us and a tree, both pulling energy, earth and sun, for growth.
Mm-hmm.
And he highlights that growing tip. Says it's like a regulator, kind of like our hormones governing our well-being.
Exactly. And the core idea is that the health of the whole thing depends on every part, every, let's say, branch growing properly.
Right. One part affects the whole.
Yeah. And it's not just a nice metaphor. It actually scales up. He extends it out to the cosmos.
Okay. How so?
Well, solar systems are pictured as these huge branches. Planets are the shoots coming off them. And then moons are like the buds.
Wow.
It's this massive interconnected web, where the same principles of growth and dependency are mirrored everywhere.
And zooming back into our own experience, the moon suddenly becomes really central in this view.
Very central.
It suggested that the moon sort of within us is fundamental for all growth. It regulates our body, those deep rhythms that honestly we don't even think about most of the time.
It's a huge role. The text presents the sun as like the initial spark, the seed of life maybe, but it's the moon that creates the conditions, the environment for that seed to actually sprout and, flourish within us.
So sun's the potential, moon's the activator or the nurturer.
Yeah, nurturer, regulator.
Yeah.
The conditions that make potential real. That's a good way to put it.
And this is where it gets really, really interesting for me. Consciousness itself.
Ah, yes.
It's described as the greatest fruit, like a 16th aspect, but limitless.
Mm-hmm. Infinite possibilities.
And the empowering bit is this idea that we can actually encourage this. By aligning with nature, like a gardener tending plants, we can nurture this blossoming of consciousness in ourselves.
It shifts the perspective, doesn't it? We're not just passive, we're active participants in our own, evolution, you could say.
Definitely. And it even links our personal journey to something bigger.
You mean the Earth connection?
Yeah. The idea that maybe humanity is the growing tip of the Earth itself.
Right.
And that developing our consciousness could actually help regenerate the planet. That kind of puts a different weight on doing your own inner work, doesn't it?
It really does. It frames it as almost a planetary responsibility, in a way.
So digging in a bit more, the text connects this all to Sri Vidya. It says that in this tradition, our life processes are seen as fundamentally based on the moon's activity.
Right. The logic seems to be that since all organic life operates under similar laws, natural laws,
Okay.
then watching the moon's cycles gives us this powerful lens, a way to understand those universal principles playing out right inside us.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And that leads to the 15 nityas.
Yes, the
Yes.
nityas. They're essentially personified aspects of the moon, but not just myths.
Okay, so what are they then?
They represent potential, specific types of growth within us. Think of them like 15 different seeds of possibility inside you.
As they're nurtured by.
Nurtured by the sun's energy, rooted in our body, which is the earth part here, and the moon is the regulator. The gardener, keeping track.
Got it. 15 seeds, sun's energy, body's the soil, moon's the gardener.
Pretty much. And then there's the Mahanitya.
The Mahanitya. That sounds important.
It is. It's described as the ultimate result, the fruit of the development of the 15 branches.
Okay. And does it say what that looks like in a person?
Yeah, the booklet quotes some ancient texts, the Tantaraja Tantra, I think. It lists qualities of someone where the Mahanitya is, like, apparent.
Like what?
Things like being free from doubts, content, merciful, honest, humble. It paints a picture of real inner harmony, deep balance.
Wow. That's quite an ideal.
It is. And it really highlights why balanced growth across all these 15 areas is so important.
Because otherwise...
Otherwise, you get what the text calls one-sided growth, which apparently often happens because of, factors right from birth.
Like one branch of the tree getting all the light.
Exactly like that. One branch thrives, but others wither or get stunted. And this lopsidedness prevents us from reaching that full potential, that supreme fruit.
And these imbalances, they don't just stay theoretical.
No, not at all. They manifest as what are called poisons, sources of our misery, basically.
Poisons? Like metaphorical poisons?
Well, yes and no. They're linked to actual chemical messengers in the body. Hormones, neurotransmitters, maybe, formed under the moon's influence.
Really?
Apparently, the Shri Vidya texts get very precise about describing these poisons, their nature, how they function.
That's fascinating. It bridges the mystical and the biological.
It does, and you can easily see how that idea of imbalance leading to poisons resonates today, right? With stress, hormonal issues.
Oh, absolutely. When we fixate on one thing, work, emotions, whatever, and neglect other parts.
Yeah, it creates this internal friction, this disharmony, and it can have real physical effects. This Shri Vidya view gives a framework for maybe understanding the deeper roots.
So how does the moon actually do this regulating through these 15 parts?
Yes, the 15 kelas, or parts, 8 of them correspond to the planets, well, the other planets, excluding Earth.
Okay, 8 planets.
Then 3 are our direct links: Sun, Moon, Earth, corollaries within us.
Right. And the last 4 represent the 4 classical elements: air, fire, water, earth.
Got it. So it's a whole system mapping onto us.
A very comprehensive system.
Yeah.
And presiding over all of this is Mahatripura Sundari.
The transcendent, beautiful triple city. That's quite a name.
It is. Think of it as representing the core essence of every single person. And this triple city is made of 3 fundamental energies, or Shaktis.
Which are?
Sun, moon, and earth energies.
Ah, the 3 main players again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the text is clear. Real, all-spreading growth happens only when these 3 energies come together in balance.
So the practices in Shri Vidya, they work with these energies.
Directly. They engage with these 15 energies, these growth potentials. The goal is to become conscious of how the sun, moon, and earth energies are playing out inside you.
And then what? Just watch them?
No, actively work with them. Stimulate growth where needed, maybe gently prune where there's overgrowth.
Pruning, like the tree analogy.
Just like the tree, to harmonize those internal messengers, the hormones, those potential poisons. That sounds subtle. Yeah. And maybe difficult.
Well, the text notes that spotting the overgrowth is often the easier part.
Okay, that's helpful.
Which gives you a starting point for self-awareness, but it also mentions the role of a guide. Traditionally a guru, but maybe today the text suggests the circle itself, like a community or tradition.
To help figure out your specific condition.
Precisely. To assess where you're at based on these, cosmic laws, it suggests guidance is pretty helpful for navigating this.
Makes sense. Now, you mentioned the nityas earlier, the 15 aspects.
Mm-hmm.
There's more symbolism there.
Oh, yeah. It gets quite intricate. They're depicted as 15 goddesses in a circle, and get this, they have a total of 108 arms collectively.
108 arms. Wow. Why so specific?
It's not arbitrary, apparently. This detailed imagery is said to hold precise information about an individual's dominant branch, where their identification tends to lie.
So the symbolism is like a diagnostic tool.
In a way, yes. It points to your pattern.
And that number, 108, keeps popping up.
It does. It connects the nityas, their arms, the structure of the yantra we'll get to. It's clearly significant. But the main goal of Shri Vidya, as laid out here, is to help you realize your complete triple being.
Sun, moon, earth again.
Sun, moon, earth, with all these facets, all 15 branches integrated. Your whole self.
Okay. And how does this connect to our actual life development?
Well, it suggests human growth naturally follows the lunar phases, especially that early period from conception to about age 7.
Right. You mentioned that mirrors the 15 phases.
Exactly. And that's when our main faculties, these branches, emerge. But here's a key astrological link.
Ah, the sidereal astrology part.
Yes. There are 27 specific astrological configurations called yogas in the sidereal chakra.
Okay. 27 yogas.
And these yogas can create a bias. They can push you towards certain lunar phases or faculties, giving an extra impetus, the text calls it, to specific branches.
So the conditions at birth give some branches a head start.
Kind of, yeah. These 27 yogas basically determine your orientation, the direction your growth might naturally, maybe even unchecked, tend to go. They set up potential imbalances from the start.
Okay, I think I'm following. The moon's phases reflect the whole cosmos within us.
Right, regulating different functions. And in the sidereal chakra, the map of the sky at your birth, using the actual star positions, the 8 planets are arranged relative to the moon's waxing and waning phases.
And this links to, wasn't there a theory about planetary opposites?
Yes, David Smith's theory. Based on their actual orbital periods in the sidereal zodiac,
Right.
he paired them up. Mercury, Pluto, Jupiter, Saturn, Venus, Uranus, Mars, Neptune, planets with similar frequencies acting like complements.
Okay.
And these planetary pairs, these branches of Sol, have echoes within us. They form the solar-lunar parts of 4 centers: air, earth, water, fire.
And the 5th element, ether.
Aether is unique. It has the sun and moon themselves as its opposites. It's a really intricate mapping.
Sounds it. And Cyril Fagan gets a mention.
He does. For his pioneering work in, well, modern Western sidereal astrology, the text notes he recognized key aspects: conjunction, opposition, square, and importantly, the significance of the Navamsha chakra.
Vamsha. That sounds familiar from Vedic astrology.
It is. And the booklet suggests Fagan's insights here are highly relevant to Sri Vidya too. It's bridging these systems.
So how is the Navamsha chart derived?
It comes from the main sidereal chart, the Rashi. You divide each sign into 9 equal parts.
9 parts per sign, 12 signs. That's 108 divisions. There's that number again.
Exactly, 108 again. And aspects, those geometric angles between planets, are considered important in both charts. The main Rashi and this Navamsha using an orb, a kind of tolerance zone of 7.5 degrees.
And birth time is critical.
Absolutely crucial. The moment of the first breath is emphasized for accuracy.
Okay, so sidereal uses the actual star positions, not the tropical system based on seasons.
Correct. Sidereal tracks the constellations as they are. Tropical uses the sun's position at the spring equinox as 0 Aries, and that point shifts over centuries relative to the stars.
And the Navamsha gives deeper insight.
Into, deeper layers. Karmic patterns, potential pathways for growth or challenges. It's considered very revealing in this context.
Okay, let's go back to those 15 kalas, the moon parts. Can we list them out?
Sure. They're divided into the waxing, brightening, and waning, darkening phases.
Waxing first.
Waxing phase kalas are linked to Mars for courage, Jupiter, assimilation, Venus, affection, Mercury, speech, then the Sun, individuality, Pluto, detachment, and Neptune, yielding.
Okay. Mars, Jupiter, Venus, Mercury, Sun, Pluto, Neptune. Got it. And the waning.
Waning phases, the moon itself representing personality, Saturn, rejection or limitation, Uranus, analysis, then Earth, the instinctive center, water, the moving center, fire, the sexual center, and air, the intellectual center.
Moon, Saturn, Uranus, then Earth, water, fire, air representing centers.
Okay. It's quite a detailed map of influences corresponding to the lunar cycle.
And the key point is not to over-identify with any one of these.
Exactly. The text warns that identifying too strongly with any planetary branch, which your chart might show a tendency towards, it leads to overemphasizing that kala's qualities. Physically, emotionally, mentally, it throws things out of balance.
And this links to our breath.
Yes, it claims this over-identification gets tied into your breath cycle and hormone release, creating a kind of feedback loop, a vicious circle.
And the way out
is realizing one is not that. Consciously detaching from that limited partial identification, stepping back from it.
Detachment again. Seems key.
It really seems to be presented as the practical method for breaking these ingrained patterns and finding more balance. Psychological freedom, almost.
We also get a quick rundown of what the planets signify here. Can we touch on those?
Sure, briefly.
Yeah.
Pluto, detachment, sometimes isolation. Mercury, speech, logic. Jupiter, assimilation, optimism. Saturn, rejection, structure, limitation.
Okay.
Venus, harmony, affection. Uranus, analysis, control, sudden change. Neptune, romance, idealism, maybe confusion. Mars, anger, drive, stamina.
And the sun and moon.
Sun is linked to the Atman, the true self. Moon is the everyday personality, the jiva.
And the ascendant midheaven. The angles in the chart.
Those relate more to the physical body, your presence in the world. Yeah, they provide a kind of symbolic shorthand for the energies involved in the system. Archetypes, really.
Now, the Shri yantra itself, the actual diagram, what's the basic structure?
Okay, visually you have triangles. 4 pointing upwards, those represent Shiva, the masculine principle, and 5 pointing downward, Shakti, the feminine.
And they overlap.
They interpenetrate, yes. And this interlocking creates a complex pattern of 43 smaller triangles in total.
43. Any significance there?
Well, the text connects the numbers. The 4 upward triangles times 3 corners, maybe, gives 12 linked to the 12 zodiac constellations.
Okay.
And the 5 downward triangles times 3 gives 15 corresponding to the 15 moon phases, the kilas we just discussed.
12 plus 15 is 27, those fundamental astrological parts again.
Exactly. It seems to map onto that structure. And there's mention of a related, maybe simpler yantra that focuses just on the 15 parts.
And around these triangles,
there are lotus petals, an inner ring of 8 petals, and an outer ring of 16.
8 plus 16 is 24.
Right. And these 24 are said to refer to the 24 planetary yogas, plus maybe the 3 main influences of sun and moon, making it symbolic of the forces shaping us.
And the whole thing is made of 9 levels, mandalas.
9 mandalas, yes, each representing different aspects of the main deity, the transcendent triple goddess Mahatripura Sundari.
And right at the absolute center
is the bindu, the single point, described as about to create. Is called the cave of the heart.
Beyond the zodiac and the moon phases.
Yes, considered beyond those manifest levels. And this bindu is also described as triple.
Triple how?
A red bindu for the mother's energy, a white bindu for the father's, and a mixed bindu for the child, the result of their union.
Wow.
With pure consciousness being bliss, Satya Ananda, the void at the very, very center of that point.
That's incredibly layered symbolism.
It really is. And there's even a specific astrological link mentioned for the red and white bindus, connected to the placement of Mars in the parents' charts, which is then said to manifest through the sun in the child's horoscope. It suggests these deep, energetic inheritances.
Fascinating. Yantras and mandalas often have this quality, don't they? Mapping the micro and macrocosm.
They absolutely do. They serve as focal points for meditation and understanding these connections between the self and the universe.
So the booklet wraps up by talking about astrology and true will. What's the take there?
It suggests that standard astrological interpretations, if they lack this deeper initiated insight, can end up reinforcing those partial identifications we talked about, making you think you are just your Mars placement or your moon sign in a fixed way.
Assuming a fixed nature based on a part, not the whole potential.
Exactly. But the real point, drawing back to the tree analogy, is that every branch needs to grow for the whole tree to really flourish.
So it critiques traditional astrology for potentially boxing people in.
It seems to offer a critique of interpretations that might become enslaving, assigning fixed roles or limitations. It's arguing for a more dynamic view.
And this leads to the idea of a new astrology.
Yes, a revised approach. One designed specifically to help you remove those partial, damaging identifications.
Find your true will instead.
To find and align with your true will, yeah. Rather than being defined or confined by perceived astrological destiny.
That feels more empowering, less deterministic.
Definitely. It reframes astrology not as a sentence, but maybe as a map of potentials and tendencies you can consciously work with. A starting point for evolution, not an end point.
And finally, there's a connection made between breath and time.
Right. It states that a full day-night cycle involves 10,800 breaths for inhalation, and the same for exhalation, assuming a 4-second rhythm.
10,800, that's 108 by 100. There's 108 again.
It keeps recurring. And the very first breath you take at birth is said to establish your personal timescale, imprinted with those planetary energies.
So our breath rhythm is key.
Essential. Restoring your breath to its natural rhythm in harmony with the sun and moon cycles is seen as necessary to actually receive prana, the vital life force.
And the ultimate goal of releasing identification.
It leads towards revealing the bliss of the void. It requires going beyond identifying with any cosmic aspect, planets, moon, sun, even the stars, to realize what some traditions might call nuit, the underlying ground of being.
Moving beyond all labels, all parts, to the source.
That seems to be the ultimate implication. And again, breath awareness, breath regulation is presented as a vital practice on that path, just as it is in so many traditions.
Wow. Okay. So bringing this deep dive toward a close, we've really covered a lot. This interconnectedness, us, the cosmos, mediated by the moon and its phases, viewed through Sri Vidya and sidereal astrology.
The 15 kelas, the potential for balanced growth versus one-sidedness, the dangers of over-identification.
Right. And the Sri Yantra as this incredible map of it all. For me, I think the real aha moment was that link between the poisons and actual chemical messengers. That idea that internal imbalance isn't just in your head, but has this tangible physiological dimension described in ancient texts.
Yeah, that's powerful. For me, it's the sheer comprehensiveness of the framework. It's not just reading a chart, it's understanding this dynamic dance between the cosmic and the personal, all aimed at, well, realizing your full potential and moving beyond those limiting self-definitions.
Which leads us to a final thought, really, for you listening, reflecting on this whole tree analogy.
Mm.
Which branch in your own life, your own being, feels the most dominant right now? Maybe even to the point of overshadowing others.
Yeah, and conversely, which areas might feel a bit neglected, a bit stunted, perhaps needing some conscious nurturing?
It's definitely something to ponder.
Yeah,
A different way to look at yourself through this cosmic lens.
absolutely.
Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We really hope exploring these ideas from Shri Lokanath's work has sparked some insights for you.
We encourage you to sit with these concepts, see how they resonate, and maybe explore further if it calls to you.